War is a constant in the history of Russia's formation, with invasions from the east and west being repelled at the cost of much blood. With such a history, it is not surprising that the Russians have developed an exceptional family of combat vehicles, and surprisingly, they are extremely compact. The same cannot be said for their large fighter jets. Russian military engineering seems to live in a paradox which does not qualify them in any way. While they design light and extremely compact tanks, like the excellent T-72, these aircraft are enormous, of large dimensions, such as the MiG-31 jet, which has performed very well in the Ukraine war. And that is what we are going to work on today. This true paradox that, I repeat, in no way undermines the efficiency of Russia's excellent military projects. So, let's look at the origin of this brilliant counterpoint. Follow along with us. Russian military history is a rich and complex tapestry. From the Mongol hordes to the Napoleonic campaigns, the vastness of the Russian steppe has always been a battlefield. The vastness of the territory shaped the strategy, the need to defend extensive borders against powerful enemies. Well, folks,
a lição foi aprendida com sangue e suor. A infantaria sozinha não bastava. A cavalaria, outrora rainha das batalhas, se tornava obsoleta. Eram necessárias novas armas, novas táticas. A resposta veio com a Revolução Industrial.
Bom, pessoal, a indústria militar da Rússia é uma coisa mais antiga do que...
The Russian military industry is something older than is often mentioned. People tend to say that Russia was a backward country around 1917 when the revolution happened, but that's not quite true. This book here, it's from the University of Paris, quite old, from 1966. And it talks about the Russian industry from 1880 to 1914, and it was already quite advanced. When the communists took power in 1918, they maintained this tradition. That's the truth. The Soviet industry experienced significant growth during the years of Joseph Stalin. And what happens? The Russians at that time knew they would enter a war sooner or later, and they needed to get the most out of their material.
Mais tarde, eles precisavam tirar o máximo possível do seu material. E aí surge o conceito do T-34, que nunca foi carro pesado.
And then comes the concept of the T-34, which was never a heavy tank, that's the truth. But it had angled armor and a fairly wide track, so it maintained mobility as much as possible, even in muddy and snowy conditions. In short, it was an engineering solution that maximized the material and remains relevant to this day. Russian military doctrine has always recognized the importance of mobility. In a country with challenging infrastructure, the ability to move troops quickly is crucial. Russian tanks prioritized agility and mass production. Smaller tanks, like the T-34, navigated rough terrains, crossed rivers and swamps with ease. Simplified production allowed for mass production, creating a sea of steel. This philosophy remains to this day. Tanks like the T-72 and T-90 continue to be the backbone. The strength lies in the ability to exploit weaknesses. Well, we saw several advantages of the T-34 and the Russian philosophy. But here's what happens. When you make a smaller tank, first, you have a lower silhouette, making it harder to detect. Its tendency is to have a bit more speed. And of course, the material cost for this equipment will also be lower, in addition to the weight condition. Because Russia is a huge country, the largest country in the world. That's the truth. Russia has the largest river in Europe, the largest mountain range in terms of extension in the world, which is the Urals, the largest active volcano in the world, located in Kamchatka, and the deepest lake. Everything there is superlative. And to maintain a country like that, you really need to have rugged equipment. That's the big truth. You can't have roads everywhere. So you think of engineering solutions with great ruggedness that are easy to manufacture, that don't require much equipment, and that also don't demand much maintenance or very complicated manufacturing processes. I sometimes see people complaining about the finish of Russian material. Yes, It's not the most perfect design, you know, but it's equipment with incredible durability and efficiency. Now let's compare it with Western material.
Vamos dar uma comparada agora com o material ocidental. Pessoal, vou mostrar para vocês três maquetes do canal.
Guys, I'm going to show you 3 models from the channel. They're more or less to the same scale. There might be some minor distortion, but it's minimal, so you can get a real sense of the size comparison between Russian and Western tanks. Well, from left to right in the video, you have the camouflage Challenger, the Abrams in yellow with desert camouflage, and a Russian T-80. And what do you notice there? That the Western tanks are much larger and slightly taller than the Russian tank. And what we can't notice, because they are models, is that the American and British tanks are much heavier than their Russian counterparts. If tanks represent ground strength, fighter jets are the rulers of the skies.
Força terrestre, os caças são os senhores dos céus. E nesse quesito a Rússia também se destaca.
In this regard, Russia also stands out. Russian fighter jets are famous for their raw power, their ability to carry heavy armaments, and their impressive range. The powerful engines and robust aerodynamics have their origins in the Cold War years, when Soviet fighters needed to be capable of intercepting the United States strategic bombers. They needed to be formidable interceptors, capable of carrying out long-range missions and taking down their targets at long distances. The planes needed to have large wings to store plenty of fuel, and their robust fuselage also allowed for the accommodation of powerful radars and other sensors.
Radares e demais sensores bastante poderosos.
A história militar russa está repleta de exemplos.
The Russian military history is filled with examples of iconic equipment, tanks, and fighters that have become symbols of the country's ingenuity and industrial capability. And for Russia, the answer has always been clear. Strength lies in balance. The vastness of Russia, its turbulent history, and its unique geopolitical position have shaped a singular military approach, a delicate dance between the weight of the bear and the speed of the falcon, a dance that the world watches with admiration and apprehension. Well, folks, to demystify the notion that only MiG makes large fighters like the MiG-31 and MiG-25, I am handling here a Sukhoi S-27, which ironically was Ukrainian, then was sold to Eritrea.
Vocês vêm aqui para a Eritreia. Então, vocês veem o tamanho desse avião, né? Esse aqui numa escala bastante.
So, you see the size of this plane, right? This is quite a good scale for us to analyze an aircraft. So I think this plane strongly embodies the arguments I used here for you to show that Russia likes large aircraft. But, on the other hand, for their combat vehicles, they prefer smaller dimensions, although they are always improving. Take, for example, this T-80 here. It's the model used in Ukraine. They've already added protection for the turret, and at the time everyone mocked it, made fun of it. Now it's appearing all over the world. So we notice that the Russians, when it comes to building weaponry, are very practical. They concluded, the plane has to be big. It needs to be big for the country's dimensions, to store fuel, sensors, blah, blah, blah. And the tank? The tank will have to be small, because we don't have good roads. A small tank is more economical, has a number of advantages, etc. So, that clarifies this doubt. But I know this topic won't stop here. There will be a lot of comments. So comment here if you think that's the case. If you want other arguments, the engineering folks will have a lot to say. I know I'll make other videos about it. We're going to bring Edelson Pinto here. Edelson wrote an excellent article, the one that appears on the screen, about the certification of Russian military projects. We're planning to bring him here. It's going to be really cool. Edelson will become a more regular figure. He knows a lot about technology. He's an engineer, a fantastic guy. We'll bring him here several times to talk about military technology, not only from Russia, but from other countries as well. So that was our video for today. Leave your comment here, telling us what you think about Russia's tanks and planes, and help our channel grow, okay? Anyone who can contribute with a super sticker or super chat or become a member of the channel club, okay? or also by leaving a Pix, which can be found in the description of our channel. And we'll be back soon, always with responsibility and commitment. See you later, folks. See you later.
Fé no Brasil, pessoal. Até mais. Bom, pessoal, eu vou deixar aqui no link na descrição.
Well, folks, I will leave in the link in the description of this video our entire line of books about Ukraine available on Amazon. There's a lot in various languages and formats as well. You will find things on Kindle in print format. What happens? Amazon delivers very quickly, especially for those who live here in the capital in Sao Paulo. It also accepts boleto, credit card, installments, etc. And I remind you, every time you buy books and other items on Amazon, you are supporting the Arte da Guerra channel.
Na Amazon, vocês estão ajudando o canal Arte da Guerra.
Captioned by Sonia Roberti.